Alright, what's good guys? Today we're going to do Eddie tutorial part 1. It's going to be some basic stuff, not too complicated, nothing involved with Eddie or set play or anything like that mix-ups. It's just going to be some ground stuff you need to know with Zato at least. So today we're going to talk about movement, Eddie movement, defensive options with Zato, Zato's normals, Zato's special moves. We're going to talk about his supers, Eddie special moves. We're going to talk about his confirms you need to know for just Zato. Nothing with like Eddie and Zato, but we're gonna go over all of that basic stuff, and then next part we're gonna talk about mix-ups and all this unblockable nonsense you need to know to play Eddie. But let's begin with his movement. His walk speed is like a tad bit slower than other characters, but it's not that big a deal. He has a run. He does not have a dash like Leo or other characters. It's a normal run. His air dash is really long. You get across the screen at a pretty fast pace. Stuff like that. He doesn't have a double jump. He has a flight. You cannot do fly. You cannot fly after a super jump. It has to be a regular jump. But you can go pretty high. It lasts a few seconds. It's not too long, but you can do normals out of it. You can do his one special move that's able to do air. Do supers. But he does have jump cancelable normals, right? So you can do, this is how it involves doing like triple, double overheads, tricky stuff like that. But because of this, his dust combos aren't that good because he doesn't have a double jump. He can't do like, he can't extend his air dust combos. So it makes his air combos kind of limited, but it's good enough because he has good air normals anyway. But he has a 3-frame jump, so he isn't susceptible to certain stuff like Potemkin having a 4-frame jump. So he can't get out of situations that like the slower characters can't. So he has a normal jump. Like that. So Eddie movement, right? So Eddie moves pretty fast. Most of his moves push him forward a lot, except for Nobudu. Nobudu pushes him forward, but not too much. But like his jab, his buzzsaw, he can go on the fireballs too with this, with the log, so it's good for moving stuff like that. He's pretty quick. He can't jump obviously, but he covers a lot of distance because of Nobudu. He'll cover Eddie and stuff like that while he's moving around the ground. So it's pretty good in that sense. So his defensive options with Eddie, with Zato. Zato has the 3rd highest modifier in the game, meaning he takes more damage when the gut system kicks in than other characters. The other 2 characters that have higher defense modifiers than him are Milia and Chip. So in order, it'd be Chip, Milia, Zato. So he doesn't have normal health like other characters, like Soul does, for instance. But he can take his hits. He's not like a really, he doesn't have like super low health or anything like that. It's just you gotta be careful. Stuff like that. But his 3-frame jump helps him a lot. He has good buttons to like challenge people with, which is like 5P, 2P, stuff like that. So it's pretty good in that sense. You can challenge other characters. But his dead angle is pretty bad, because you can't low profile it. Stuff like that where it can be low profile, but a dead angle is a dead angle, so it can be, it will have a use. Right, but you have to know when to use it because it's not very good. You can't get baited really easily. It's pretty slow, so you gotta know when to use it. Also on counter hit, it will give you hard knockdown. So that's one of the good things about it. You get instant pressure if you get counter hit off of it, which it happens a good amount of the time when you do use it properly, but you need to know when to use it, of course. So, that's all basic stuff. Let's go to his normals. 5P, it's his fastest button. It is 5 frames. It's a pretty good distance. Turn off counter hit. You can challenge other characters with it. It goes into other can't combo and stuff. So it's a pretty useful normal. 2P again, it's 6 frames, it's a pretty fast button. It's not as far as 5P. It's about the same distance actually, but 5P is faster, so it's a little bit more useful, and it covers a higher, covers more, I guess, range than 2P, because 2P is really low. 5P will hit people crouching on most characters, or if not all the characters in the game. So I would recommend 5P a little more, but 2P has the uses, basically the same uses as 5P. Stuff like that. So it's pretty good normal. Jump P is as fast as air normal. It doesn't really cover good range like his other jumping normals, but it's pretty good. It can use for mix-ups, stuff like that. So like people, for characters that have really fast IEDs, like you can get it really quick. You can like IED backwards, you can like jump P. In certain situations, it's not the best. Oh, definitely all his other air normals are a lot better, but it is as fast as air normal. I believe it starts in 5 frames also, so it's pretty good. Oh, one note about 5P, you can use this as an anti-air in certain situations, because it's jump cancelable. You can go into air combos, you can do stuff like that. 6P is real anti-air, it's definitely his best anti-air. It starts up pretty slow, it starts up at 13 frames, so you have to kind of preemptively do it, kind of, not as bad, but it has upper body invincibility like most 6Ps in the game, so it's good in that sense. It's also jump cancelable, so in the same instance as 5P, you get air combo with it. It also links, or not links, it also chains into 5H, stuff like that, so it's pretty useful in certain situations. It's not really good in neutral like where that. And other normals are a lot better to cover. And it's only upper body invincibility, so if someone's running at like full speed doing crouching normals, like Milia or Soul doing 2D, you're gonna get hit, and it's probably gonna be counter hit, stuff like that. So it's an anti-air. It's his best anti-air though. But his K is 5K. It's standing low. It's not really good for much else besides mix-ups. It's not like a big neutral tool or anything like that, but it's good for empty jump lows, stuff like that. It can be used with block strings, but it doesn't really like go into a full combo, stuff like that. So, but it is a standing low, so it's good in that sense. 2K is kind of whack. It's not really good in neutral and stuff like that, but it is good for combos. You can do stuff like this. So it has its uses, but it's not like the best. It is a low though, where 2P is not a low. You can block it mid. This is a low. This is definitely a low. And also on counter hit, it does go into drill. It's really hard to judge it if it's gonna be counter hit or not, but in that sense, to say if you like somehow you end up doing a block shot with this, counter hit and go combo with the drill. So it can be useful in that sense. Jump K is really good. It's jump cancelable. It's one of his main tools for air combos. Also, covers a good distance. Like playing in neutral, flight, cover that nice ground distance. It's pretty good in that sense. IEDs, it's pretty good normal. 6K is standing overhead. In other games, used to be special cancelable, but it's only this. Oh shit! What happened? We good? Did it stop or no? Did the recording stop? I hope not. I don't think so. I might have. I think we're good. Oh. Hello? You good? A little mishap. Good? Okay, so where was I? Oh yeah, 6K. So 6K overhead. Other games used to be special cancelable, but this game it's not cancelable to I'm pretty sure about that. But it is good for mix-ups because it is an overhead. It does do stagger, but it's not enough stagger for you to be able to run up command grab in most situations. But it's good in that sense because you do mix-ups like that. But on counter hit you can't do it, and counter hit it causes more stagger. So that in that sense you can do run up command grab if they don't stagger if they don't get out of stagger fast enough, but it depends on the situation. S close slash combos and certain stuff. Not really used for much else except like combos. It's not like anything significant. Like most close slash is just like combo extension, stuff like that. The spar slash is it's good in certain situations. Actually, in most situations, it has a good horizontal coverage. Because in certain situations, for like start of the round, if I do 5 slash and they try to jump away or jump forward, they will get caught. So it's good in that sense. It does go into 2 slash. It doesn't combo directly unless you RC it, but it's good in that sense. On crouching, in most crouching characters, right? You can do close slash, far slash, and heavy slash together, and it will combo. If I didn't sit on the fucking block. Like that. It depends on the situation. But it's a pretty good normal. It does multiple hits, so losing armor like Potemkin, this is a really good normal to do. It goes really far. Cancel it. You can cancel it like directly out of drill. But you're not gonna get a combo off it. There's no way to actually make that a real combo. But if you're not blocking low and stuff like that, they will get hit. So S uses 2S is best neutral button. It's the god. On RC, on non-counter hit, combo. Something Eddie out of it. Do all other combos. It's amazing button in neutral. It's just overall a really good button. But on counter hit, like I said, it goes into drill automatically. Both drills, in fact. You'll mostly likely be seeing this like in neutral, because this is already, it's not a true block shift, but most people would just block it. And after pressing a button, you get counter hit. Somebody Eddie under the puddle. Do stuff like that. So it's good in that sense. Jump slash. It's a pretty good air to air. Ground to air. It depends on the character and like their buttons against it. So you have to determine that. It's basically on a character basis. But it has the uses for combos like that. You do jump slash, jump heavy slash. It's a hard knockdown. Cool stuff like that. But for his slashes, for his heavy slashes, right? Stand heavy slash, every hit of it goes into drill. It has the most hit moves, basically. So, in neutral, it's kind of slow, so you have to space it properly. Or like you have to be, like if they're gonna run in, then you can kind of use it. Because it does come with the drill in most instances, so you get pressure. Cool stuff like that. Don't worry about any of the Eddie stuff I'm doing. That's gonna be in the next part of the tutorial. But basic stuff like that. 2H, another anti-air. But like the dead angle, it's pretty slow and it can be low profile, so it's only an anti-air for the 2H. It does cover more distance than, of course, 6P, but this doesn't have upper body invincibility, so you can get hit. And a lot of the times, especially with characters with good air normals, I do get hit. On counter hit though, it is hard knockdown no matter how high they are. Negative penalty. You can't tech that at all. So if you get cash people like that, You can't get combos if you're close enough. You can get this combo also. This is a pretty good combo here. Stuff like that. But since it is hard knockdown, you have to judge. If that's not gonna kill, you might as well just get the hard knockdown, run up, get your Eddie pressure, stuff like that. So it's good. It's an okay button. It's not the best. 6P is obviously a better anti-air, but it can have its uses. 6H, another anti-air. It's really slow. It's not the best, but it covers the most distance, right? And on counter hit, it is hard knockdown. No matter how high they are, it will always be hard knockdown. This is a little easy to get an air combo off of, but it just keeps him directly in front of you. And then you have to judge if you want a combo, if you want the hard knockdown. You have to judge on that. But it's not used for much else. It can be used for block pressure, kind of, because it has a lot of hit stun. So you can, block stun. So you can do some unique stuff with it, but it's not the best. But his jump H is another pretty good air normal. It's used for combos most of the time, for air combos, but it can't cover the distance. It depends on the character basis whether or not they can anti-air it well or not. But yet again, I said you do stuff like this, where it's a pretty good tool. Can they hear me? It's good. Okay. So stuff like that. His dust, right? His dust is pretty okay. It's pretty decent. But here's the issue: since he doesn't have a double jump, you can't do extensive combos with it. Like this is like the max damage, close to the max damage you can get off of it. So you won't see a lot of Eddie players or good Eddie players using just straight up dust like that. It's not very good, and you lose hard knockdown. Because Zato's whole game is based around hard knockdown and set play, so you don't get much off of that. 2Ds, it's pretty weak compared to other 2Ds, but it's his most important button because, hard knockdown. It is special cancelable, it is jump cancelable. So you can do stuff like that. Or instances where it's pretty good. So you can ID out, you can do more pressure with it. You can bait like burst with it. I don't recommend this, but it can be used. It is a tool. But the main use is it because you get a combo, or let's say you get a block stream with it, right? It is cancelable, so you can unsummon Eddie back and not fear any big regret off of it. So it's good in that sense. Jump D looks humongous and it looks ridiculous too. But it isn't super godlike. The hitbox isn't the entire thing, it's mostly the end of it. But it's mostly used for air combos. Like it gives you a lot of damage. So stuff like that. Like that's a basic air combo you can do. Just give me a second. You can do stuff like that. That's basically what his air combo usually comes down to. Is jump D at the end. But on counter hit, it does cause wall splat and hard knockdown. Or either or. It depends if it's wall splat if they're near the corner. Basically from corner to corner, you can take them. Cool stuff like that. That's where it calls wall splat in that sense. Combos like that. You have to recognize if they're going to be in the corner or not, so you know, like, alright, I'm going to get hard knockdown or I'm going to get the wall splat. And they can convert into a bigger combo or set play. So, those are his normals. Let's go to special moves. Drill. There's two of them. There's S and H. You cannot do S into S. You have to wait it. I would say like about like 2 seconds after you do S. All the drills last a pretty good amount of time. As you see there, like basically I ran up that entire time the drill is active. Like as you see, I'm trying to do drill there, but it doesn't come out because a drill hasn't vanished and gave me, and the cooldown hasn't ended, so you have to wait. It does summon the puddles though, right? So for the puddles, Eddie can come out of. This is how you get like more pressure. To summon added puddles, it does cost a little bit of bar, but it's pretty good. You should get Eddie across the screen really fast. Stuff like that. But yeah, it's a spacing tool. It's hard knockdown on the ground. In the air, if they're slightly off the ground and you get a hard knockdown off of it, it's mostly because of counter hit. It is a low, so for anyone who doesn't realize, this move is a low. You have to block the low. You can't just keep getting hit by this constantly. You have to block low. It's good for pressure tools sometimes. If Eddie's out, you can get some unique stuff with it. But it's mostly for spacing, covering Eddie while he approaches. It has a lot of recovery on it. Like this entire time, I can't jump. So you can be susceptible to air dashes during that entire time. So you have to be aware of when's a good time to do drill and when's not a good time to do drill. But it is a projectile. It does take one hit, so it will absorb stuff like gunflame. It will counteract certain fireballs. It's pretty good. Break the law. Break the law is basically sends him on the ground. He gets flip sides on you. It can be good for mix-ups. In the older version of Exert, he can break the wall YRC at any time. But in this version, he can only do it at like the mid distance. At that point, it will become purple.
Negative pedal.
Maybe because I have too much bar actually. Like at that point where you can't, I'm trying to mash RC. It will not come out and he'll be screwed. So you need to have 2 bars to cancel at the very end, but for most of the time you can't use YRC. But he is still susceptible to getting hit out of that, so you have to be careful. It's good when Eddie's on top, you can kind of cover, you can kind of basically let Eddie fight the battle. Yeah, you have to be careful because you will. If you're screwed, and you have no Eddie, no bar. The opponent can just run up and just do a combo on you. You can't do shit about it because he's still in recovery at that point. He can't just wake up and grab you. So you have to be careful with it. Oh my god. Okay. Damn Fang. Man throw. It causes hard knockdown. It does a pretty good amount of damage. The range isn't extraordinary like May, so you have to be careful with it. It's pretty. You gotta be really close to it. But hard knockdown, you get set play off of it. It can be used for unblockable setups. It's one of like the main tools for unblockable setups. So some combos like that. But yeah, command throw used for mix-ups, the general stuff like that. Reflect, Drunken Shade, Drunkard Shade. It doesn't reflect everything in the game, so you have to know what it can reflect and what it can't reflect. Like for instance, Maze Dolphin, it can't reflect. Bedman's Fireball, the little ball that he shoots out, it cannot reflect that. But it depends on the fireball. Like Gunflame, it will reflect. And you get a full combo off it. So it's just a little tidbit there. It does have a hitbox, right? So On counter hit, it causes that. It causes wall splat and it causes a knockdown. So you get pressure off of it. You won't see that in too many instances, but it will happen, especially like in a sequence like this where this move is throw invincible. So if you're doing something like this where it's a soul mashing throw on wake up. You will get thrown, right? But let's say if you do, so you try to bait with Drunken Shade, you'll get counter hit because it's throw invincible. So you can use like tricking, like some like cool stuff like that. Like if it's really obvious they're gonna throw it, you can use it. It's not like a big deal, but it's mostly for reflecting fireballs, of course, because it is a reflect. Shadow Gallery. His one air normal, his one air special move, you can do it at a flight. Okay. You can TK it, so you'll see instances like this where, let's say you do a combo, so like a blockable setup like that, right? You'll see combos like this where it's like double Shadow Gallery, stuff like that. Right? So it causes hard knockdown if you're not in the corner, and it causes a wall splat if you're in the corner, right? So, more damaging combos if you do Drunken Shade. If you do Shadow Gallery. You can't cancel it with YRC. Here's the issue with it, right? So it's really unsafe if you do it raw, or if Eddie's not on the screen to cover you, right? But if you YRC, if you try to cancel it really late, it won't work. You need 2 bars to cancel it after that stage, right? But if you do it early, you'll be able to YRC. Yeah. Like in this situation, you'll see this sometimes where like the YRC, it will like basically teleport back to the ground. You can be air thrown, you can be hit out of that, so it's not like a true like teleport or anything like that. But it's a tool you can use because you can do stuff like this where like gravity. Command grab if they're too close and they're not like trying to bait it or anything like that. So it's a good tool in that sense, but yeah, be careful. Do not do it raw because it's really punishable. But this entire thing is a hitbox, right? So like that's a hitbox. That's a hitbox. So it basically covers all of that entire range right there. It's gonna cover. Those are all his special moves for Zato. Talk about Eddie. Or we're gonna talk about the supers actually. Let me talk about the supers, right? So the supers are Zato is notorious for having pretty crappy supers. So first super of Morpheus. Trying to get a good. I want to get a good example of this. That's good enough. So that whole thing is a hitbox, right? Except where you see the little space between Zato and the giant shark. That is not a hitbox. So this moves a reversal, and if they're right next to you, it doesn't matter. It's not gonna hit them. So it kind of sucks. Like it's not really good for anything besides, let's say if you're gonna want to get a kill combo off of it, and you don't want them to burst, you're gonna use super because you can't burst on supers. So that's like the only useful thing about it, basically. You can YRC it though, right? So that entire hitbox will cover. You can get a combo off of it, kind of, like not much, but and it only costs 3 bars because of the YRC and the super itself. So it kind of sucks. Not really good for anything besides what I just said, but use it at your own risk. Great White, right? So Great White, Eddie must be out, and it summons a giant shark that doesn't have a hurt box on it, right? So the Eddie doesn't have a hurt box on that, but of course Zato does, right? So Zato is by himself. He can't summon Eddie during that. Like Eddie's just completely gone. You can see in the bar. You see the Eddie bar on the bottom. It's just completely empty. So after that time period, after it ends, it turns into red bar, and you have to wait to be able to use Eddie again. So how that super works, right? If Eddie has more than half, it does 5 hits. If Eddie has less than half, it does 3 hits. And every hit causes hard knockdown. So you can do extensive combos with it. There are like really, I guess, impractical combos with that super, but I mean you can use it in certain situations, right? So the situation most people use it in that are like sensible is that, let's say if someone has really low health and it's just like, alright, let me get in just so I can just kill him, they'll use it like full screen so it can just run in and just try to get that last hit in to win the round or to win the game. So it's gonna be useful. It can be useful in that situation, but it does go away if Zato gets hit, since Eddie doesn't have a hurt box, and it will go away and it will cause red bar, not white bar like most instances if Zato gets hit and Eddie is out. So again, it's not the best super, but it does have a use. His best super, Executioner, it's an air super. It can't be done. It can be done at any height. It can be TK'd also, so you get like literally instant Executioner. It's really unsafe though, so I wouldn't recommend doing this unless you're gonna do a combo. So the farther you are, the more hits it does. Where if you're in the corner, it's gonna be like not that many hits. Right. You can do that a flight also. It's the most useful super because it gives them basically corner to corner and it causes hard knockdown at any distance. So let me jump here. I am lost. Here it is. You can do stuff like that, right? So you get knockdown, get pressure. It's the most useful air super. It's not used a lot at the time, but it has a more definite use than the other two supers. It's pretty crappy. So it's kind of like it's instant kill. It's just heavy slashes. It's 5S. So that's the hitbox for it. But that's all supers. It's not very good, except Executioner for air combos, stuff like that. But let's go on to Eddie moves. Eddie moves, right? So summon should be only used heavy slash, right? So, because once you do heavy slash, right, it's the fastest. You don't have to commit to a button, right? So all of his moves can be done with quarter circle forward. So, true here, right? See special attacks, right? Summon Eddie. You can use all of those to summon Eddie, and they do all this. They do all of these. But if you just summon him with heavy slash, he does no attack, right? So you're not committing to anything. You're not using bar immediately, and it's also the fastest. Or I can run. I recover faster if I do this than I do with just doing the move regularly. So always unsummon and summon with heavy slash. Because one of the instances for unsummoning, let's say bar's about to run out, right? Let bar run out. If I unsummon Eddie with heavy slash, I can unsummon him with the tiny bit of bar he has left, right? But if I do any of the other attacks, like punch, kick, slash, right? He goes away. I don't know why, but sorry, I'll show you the instance. That entire bar, I had enough bars to do another move and summon him back if I did heavy slash. Let's say I did slash or any other button besides heavy slash. The bar, like, it eats up more bar recalling him. I don't know why. It's a thing. So don't use it. Always use heavy slash for recall and unsummoning. I mean for summoning and unsummoning. Right? And you can walk him forward, right? So let's say I do this into punch. the punch is gonna whiff. But if I do heavy slash, I can walk him a little bit forward, and then I can do the punch for Eddie. Or in this instance, right? If I unsummon him at that part, I have a little bit of bar, but he won't go to red. He'll go back to white, and I can summon him again. So on to his moves, right? So punch does small attack. It moves him forward. It has a pretty big hitbox. Look at that. It's pretty big. It's a pretty good normal. It is -2, I believe, on block. So a lot of moves, a lot of characters can't really challenge it, especially at like max distance of that. It's really good for pressure. You should cover Eddie with the cover Eddie with the drill. So he can hit through drill, and then they can't hit back because drill's on the screen. Stuff like that. It's pretty good. Nobiru, his best anti-air, hands down. Look at all that range. Look at all that space. All of it covers literally the whole horizontal. I mean, vertical distance. Pretty ridiculous. On counter hit, it's pretty devastating. I can do ridiculous, like 50%. It's basically 50% on Soul, and Soul has a pretty average health. So you do a character like Millie or Chip, it's basically like 60-65% of their health gone off of one counter hit Nobiru. So it's really good. Even on a non-counter hit, you can get some pretty good combos, right? Trying to get it. Like that. Even on non-counter hit, if you're expecting something, or you can just do this, right? Because it'll push him full screen. If you want to set up Eddie, go back to neutral. All that good stuff like that. So he has break the wall. We discussed this earlier. It's basically used to get Eddie underground, to cover him. I mean, for him to get away from fireballs. You see, basically dodge the gun flame. It will, just like other break the wall. You can make him go under him. Do setups like that. If you do stuff like this. So it's useful in that sense, right? And it's good, let's say if you're in the air, like, so then let's say if you're doing gun flame, you can kind of like have Eddie out. Like stuff like that. It's like it's good for, it's basically good to protect Eddie from like fireballs and stuff like that. With kick, he does buzzsaw. Definitely the best pressure tool. It does 3 hits most of the time. As you see, it did 4 hits there, but in most instances, it will do 3 hits instead of 4. So, pretty big combo tool. Just like that. But it's not really good for neutral per se, because it's really it lasts a long time, right? So it's like, unless you're gonna get a block string in neutral, it's not really good to like just throw at neutral, because this entire time you can't move, right? You can't do a move. Or if I'm doing jab, right? I can do drills, I can cover Eddie. So it's not the best in neutral, but if you're gonna get a block string, just do it. It's pretty good. Good for high-low mix-up, stuff like that. But you'll see in the next part of the tutorial where I talk about set play and mix-ups with all his moves. What else, right? Big drill. It's basically it's basically Big Drill, right? So and he uses all his bar and he goes away. And it's a low also, right? So this is where it becomes like the unblockable setups, stuff like that. So basically an unblockable tool. You're not gonna be like setting the mine in the middle of neutral. It's not used for that at all. It's basically only for unblockables. Also, his Dead Man's Hands is Eddie's command grab. He uses about half of the bar, so it's not useful in neutral. It's good for tricky setups. Like people are starting to get some really cool stuff with it, like unblockable setups and some basically unescapable stuff. But it's still kind of being experimented. Like you can't get an insta kill setup off of it, right? So let me try to set this up.
It's not over yet.
So, if I can do this, I haven't done this in a while, so excuse me if I drop this like 4 times. Oh fuck. Like that, and since it's a command grab, they can't burst out of it. So, it has uses. Experiment, do some cool stuff with it if you want, but it's not his best tool. For sure, it's definitely not one of his best tools, right? So, and it lasts a while, right? So if you look, you can't move that entire time. But the range on it is pretty good, so it's a pretty decent tool. So that's all special moves. Let's talk about negative edging. So, Dave, can you look at the screen to make sure like doing this right? So negative edging, basically, let's talk about Street Fighter, right, for a second. Let's say I do Hadouken. Hadouken, of course. Yeah, see it? Can I bring it down? Just give me 1 second. Yep. Good. See that better? Just kind of see it like it's cut off a little bit. Yeah, more down. Okay, that's fine. We'll let it rock. All right. Whoop. So in Street Fighter, Hadouken, quarter circle forward with a whatever punch, right? So for negative edging, right, it's basically done like that. You move the stick and you press the button, right? But for negative edging, it basically I'm holding the button right before, and then I move the stick and then I let go. So in this is for Eddie. Eddie doesn't use that because all his moves are just with the punch. So that's basically it. So I'm not doing a motion every time, but the way to make Eddie do what you want, you hold all the buttons, and then you pick and choose what you want to do, instead of trying to just basically mash on slash to get Nobudu and stuff like that, which I see a lot of people do, and I'm sick and tired of people doing it. Learn how to negative edge, right? So I'm holding all the buttons, right? I'm holding all 3 buttons. I can pick, right? I let go. You see Zato is not moving at all. So that's it. That's how you control Eddie. That's proper edging. Not everything he does requires negative edging, but especially for neutral where I'm moving around, use negative edging. Learn how to negative edge, right? You're just holding a couple buttons. That's all you gotta do. All the buttons, pick and choose what you want to do without Eddie, without Zato doing it. So that's negative edging. If you have more questions about it, my Twitter is in the description, so If you're still confused about that section, it's a little hard to explain. But there are other videos out there for negative edging, just specifically, right? But you can just hit me up on Twitter if you have a question about that. It's not a big deal. So it's better. Okay, so let's talk about basic Zato strings, just by himself. This is no eddy and no bar. So some general stuff, right? 5P 2D, 5P 2P 2D, 5P 5S 2D. All knockdown stuff. All can lead into Eddy summon. Right? Because remember, 2D is special cancelable. Eddy summon is a special move. 6P, 5S, close 5S, 2D, air dash in, right, like that, do that. One of his main confirms that doesn't confirm all the time, but it's a good block string. 2P, 2S, 5H. You can also just do this. So let's say if you're too far for the 2P to reach, stuff like this. I'm trying to remember. I have notes here. If you see me like looking back and forth because I don't remember every combo I try to write down. 6P 5H or knockdown. 5S 5H or knockdown. Crouching confirm, because remember their hitbox, their hitbox is a lot expanded, is more expanded. So this won't work. This will. This will. That still works. We have to change it up, right? You have to know if they're crouching or not. Like, so what confirm are you gonna be doing? That's a crouch confirm. That's one of the uses for 2K, right? Because it is low. You can do this. That's confirmed. So all these leads are knockdown, right? So I can do a combo probably. So you get the summon out, do cool stuff. Good stuff like that. Alright, so talk about bar but no eddy. So his combos are relatively the same, except let's say this is too far. And this since is too far for me to confirm it is not a counter hit. If I recognize it, run up 2P 2D. Stuff like that. That's not normally a combo, it's not counter hit, but you can do this. That's a combo. If you're extremely far, right? Actually, farther than that. And like max distance 2F, you can do right RC, hard drill, summon Eddy, get pressure. So it's basically the same for most of his combos like that. His dust combo, I didn't experiment too much on the air dust because it's just like I'm not gonna use it too much. But here's that's a good one. Jump D, jump slash, jump H, jump D. You can also do this one. I think it's just left damage though. So it's a lot harder to do that. I did a 101. I did 103. You're not gonna get much, so don't be super picky about his air dust combos. His core dust combos are interesting because it depends on how many hits. So generally, my rule for what dust combo I'm gonna do, which is basically the same thing, it's just one button difference. If I have below 10 hits, I'll do this. I'll do 6B, forward slash, 2S, heavy slash, H drill. But let's say I'm in the middle of a more advanced combo. Actually, give you a better example of this. If it's past 10 hits, I'll cut it short and I won't do the 2S after the second forward slash. But yeah, they're basically the same combo, but it won't reach, or the H drill won't combo, or something like that. Like it won't work properly. So you want to make sure you want to get that hard knockdown. Another best combo you can do, if you want to get like super extensive, you can do some. Let's see if you get raw. It's mostly up for raw though. It's kind of weird. Don't worry about that one. That one's not a big deal, but it's just one little thing you can do there. But that is part 1 for Eddie. So basically went over all the stuff. I'll have timestamps about what I talk about. If you're just worried about one specific thing, if you know how to play Eddie but you're not sure what Eddie confirms, like I'll put timestamps for what I talked about. But for part 2, we'll talk about mix-ups, unblockables, set play, just overall general consensus about how Eddie and Zato together. So I'll see you soon.